Good morning. This is one of these mornings that I haven't anything prepared. I haven't thought about anything. I haven't had quite a good night's sleep, so I don't really have anything in particular to talk about. But we can talk about anything. But I suppose just off the top of my head, I'm going to address an issue that's quite makes a lot of news. The whole transgender issues and the transgender pronouns and everything else, because this is a dialectic. And this is the way, sometimes, like, even my life now, not like the transgender issue is when it comes to crazy and absurdity and things like that. Believe me, the transgender issues that's small. Like, sometimes it feels like Alice in Wonderland around here, but that's the way I like it. It doesn't freak me out or stress me out or anything else. I've learned to enjoy life at that level of perception. Everything is a bit crazy, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you have to stay very conscious, because, like, when it comes to creating yourself, you have to be very careful how you let, you know, um, you have to be very aware of concepts. And I'll talk about concepts, and I'll talk about, and things like the Emperor's New Clothes and concepts and things like this, because the whole thing about dialectics is it's a whole uh, thing of everybody's imposing their will, but most people aren't, they don't have any will, because it's not their will, because they don't think. It's just things happen as they go, but they don't actually focus on determining the nature of change, but yet they try to impose their will. But that's because the instinctual drives, they try to impose their will. For example, you take the transgenders, this is imposing their will, where they're coming on here crying, I'm after cutting off my two ditties and fucking I want to be seen as a man, I want to be seen as a woman, I want to impose myself on your games, I want to identify as a woman and knock the bollocks out of every woman of every woman in the MMA. You know what I mean? I want to identify as a man, I want to identify as this, I want to identify, who gives a fuck? Um, Basically, it's for everybody to think about this themselves. And one of the reasons why we have all this transgender thing and everything else now is for people to start using their faculty of reason, for to start thinking. As I said about the people with the Inquisition and the noblemen riding their wives and everything else on their first night and all this went on seemingly in Scotland, it didn't know what went on in Spain, but seemingly went on in Spain as well. But at what point, how much suffering do these fuckers have to get before they start thinking for themselves, before they start to actually think, before they actually start to say, hold the fuck on here? You know what I mean? Before they start questioning the academic hierarchies, the people who assert themselves as an authority on everything. Like, for example, I was watching, now, well, I'm not going to be too hard on Peterson, because, like, you know what I mean, but it's just, I get subjected to these videos, and it's sort of like the whack-a-mole again. I can't get rid of the cunt. But yeah, when I was finished the philosophy the other night, we have a video of Peterson talking about cocaine and, oh, it's a great drug, but started to say why people take it and everything else. And then he went into this big load of shite, writing a big stupid narrative about how cocaine works in the body and all the biological fucking. Why couldn't he do that for his own fucking addiction? Why couldn't he do that? Tell us how benzos work in the body. Do you know what I mean? Tell us how fucking benzos work in the body, you drug addict. Do you know what I mean? But here he was telling us all about, oh, it's a great drug, but why don't more people do it? And then he went into this big stupid narrative, that's like a big superficial narrative, a big stupid narrative that asserts him as an authority on the subject, about this, an authority on addiction, an authority on cocaine, an authority on how people should live their lives, a fucking authority on everything. But this is the shepherd. This is the shepherd, and this is leading the sheep. But the sheep don't think. You know. Do you understand? So we're back again to dialectics, where the whole concept has not changed. The concept has changed, but the principle has not changed. You have this man who asserts himself as an authority, but if he can't baffle you with science, he blinds you with bullshit. But basically, he writes a big stupid narrative about how things are, and then how you should live, and everything is according to. Well, it's not so much his will, because I consider him just a marionette. Because he's to be honest, like, his view is a little bit too superficial to be anything but a marionette. And my point is, nobody questions this. Everybody, follows him. But that's perfectly okay. Like, I just come on and I do my role, but it's for me to, like, my role. Well, I'll lead the way in thinking for yourself, because I just looked at him and I just said to myself, my God, like what a big stupid narrative, and how I know who gives a fuck, like, how cocaine works in the body and why it's so addictive. And he must have spent fucking 10 minutes describing the whole process about cocaine, but basically he's wrong. He's wrong. He's fucking wrong. As a lad who used to live with me used to say about the drink, he used to like a drink, but not that, of course. Like, who doesn't like a drink? But as he used to say to me, it's all in your fucking head, Dave. It's all in your fucking head. And I said, that's the truth. It's all in your fucking head. It's all in the mind, but everything is mind, and that's why, like, well, once you realise that everything is mind, let me tell you, like, you come out of that little self-imposed reality, and let me tell you, reality really, really changes, and it becomes, like, as I say, Alice in Wonderland. But he tries to box you into his little reality, writing a narrative on how cocaine works in the body, you know what I mean? And then he'll write another narrative then about the gender pronouns. But I'll give you my view on the gender pronouns. The whole thing is change is the only constant. And really, like, you see, this is a dialectic that can determine the nature of change, and we can say, oh, we can accept men as women, or we can accept women as men, but fuck that, like, because that, as I say, is just a mind fuck, because it challenges universal concepts. But instead of rather like Peterson, not just to take an opposing view for the sake of it, but I had to think about this. And I have to say, I'm going to welcome the gender pronouns. Because, like, this is not a man and this is not a woman. Because how can a woman doesn't have a Mickey hanging over. Like, and even if you cut that Mickey off, it's just a man after cutting his Mickey off and identifying as a woman. But who cares what you want to identify as? You don't fit the universal concept of woman. Do you understand? Now, I welcome the gender pronouns, and we can call you they, them, yourself, whatever the fuck we want to call it, whatever you want to identify as, but you can't just impose yourself on our concept of a woman, and you can't impose yourself on our concept of a man, because, like, that's like trying to say, we're not going to call this a duck anymore, we're going to call this something else, we're going to call this a duck. Now we're going to take a goose, and we're going to the goose is going to identify as a duck, because that just fucks everything up. But we can call you something different, and really, it's not right that you try to impose yourself on man's games, or men that were formerly, or women that were formerly men, impose themselves on women's games. Like, really, what we can have is we can have their own. Now, I have absolutely no problem with any of these things. But as I say, tolerance is the lube that's used to insert the dildo of dysfunction in the ass of society. But what we can do is be very reasonable about this, and we can have the transgender games. And then we can have men that used to be women and women that used to be men, and they can compete against each other, and we can give them whatever fucking trophies or anything else. And there's surely enough of them now that we can have a decent competition. And maybe it'll be even worth watching, but you have to fucking compete for the views yourself. Like, you can't just decide to impose yourself on an established hierarchy. And not that I'm even looking to impose myself on any established hierarchies. That's what I said from the beginning. We create our own hierarchical systems. Now, I've no problem with the transgenders, but I'm just saying, like, that you can't just insist that we see you as a man, because that's trying to control our perception. Like, that'd be like trying everybody to say, I want to be seen as a nice fella. And I insist you see me as a nice fella. When really, like, I can't control how you see me, nor do I give a fuck how you see me. But I'm not going to try and impose my how I want to be seen by you on you. Do you understand? And it's not for them to do that either. It's up to everybody to like their reality is their own, and it's up to everybody. Now, in saying that, we then have the law, of course, because they're the fucking people who impose their will on everybody. But again, this is where I say we have to establish the established hierarchies. Now, when it comes to the likes of Enoch Burke saying, "I'm not going to address this, I'm not going to address that," he's just not embracing change, and he deserves exactly what the Indians got. He deserves to be just fucking steamrolled, because he's not embracing change. I mean, like. You can't just insist that if somebody wants to identify as a man, lobs off the two tits and dresses as a woman, well then, like, as I say, there's a broad spectrum in between, and I appreciate there's a broad spectrum between each binary. And the whole thing is that the universe is enforcing this spectrum upon us. But what can you do? Only laugh at it and enjoy it and go with it. But you just have to be able to create new categories, and this is evolution. So we'll have the evolution of languages, which is the gender pronouns, and the evolution of society, where we'll accept them for what they are, but don't let them try and tell us that they're something that they're not. Do you understand me? Yeah. And that's what it's called, thinking for yourself, and not letting people impose their reality upon you, because this is dialectics. And if you think for yourself, and you don't have to make a big fucking scene about it, you don't have to fucking stand outside the fucking school like a fucking knobhead trying to repeat Jordan Peterson's success. He deserves a good swift kick in the bollocks and back into jail with bread and water for another few days. But you just have to. That's what I'm saying. Don't go to war with nature, but embrace the change. But at the same time, the French were great at this. But at the same time, take that. It's sort of like judo. Like, you use its own dynamic against it. So you embrace the change, and then you move it in the direction that you want to go in. Do you understand what I mean? So you don't go full frontal war. You take it and move it in that direction. Do you understand me? Yeah. You understand me? Yeah. Don't be so rigid in your thinking that you can like as I said, I sat down with one particular transgender. I'm not sure what the gender pronoun is. I'll have to learn these gender pronouns. But sure, they can tell me these gender pronouns themselves. But sure, as I said, but we sat down and we talked about it. And as I said, you're 6'4", you're built like a ship brick house, you're wearing a pair of work boots, and I think it's unreasonable that you asked me to identify, see you as a woman. I said, because that's a mindfuck. You're challenging a universal concept. You're challenging a concept I have of a woman since I'm that high, and just trying to impose your will upon me. I said, but that wouldn't be acceptable. We'd have to have a different gender pronoun. But I'd be willing to agree on a different gender pronoun. We can identify as something else, but obviously we'll have to expand the whole gender pronoun things, because you're not a woman and you're not a man. But we can come to an agreement between us that you're not a woman and you're not a man. Transgender is okay, but if they're okay with transgender, but then you're a transgender, like, yeah. If that suffice, then if transgender is the description, that's perfect. We'll call you a transgender, but you're not a woman, you're not a man, you're a transgender. Until such time as if you want to put a new name on it, we can. Good morning.